In this episode, we're going to talk about some of the most groovy monster board games of the 1970s. So, stick around. Hello, fellow dorks and dorkettes, and welcome to Nostalgia Syndrome. My name is Rob, and in this episode, we're going to take a look at some board games from the 1970s that all feature monsters, ghosts, or anything creepy. And speaking of creepy, let's get to number 1. Our first board game comes from the year 1979 and was released by Action Games and Toys Limited, or Action GT in its shortened form. Anyway, this is the game Creeps, and to be completely honest, I couldn't find a lot on this game. Now, there's definitely some in the hands of collectors, but as far as the internet as a whole, there's not a lot of info on it. But I was able to find the blurb from the back of the box, and it says, Creeps, the game that strikes terror at the heart. Pick up a dagger and strike the vampire in his coffin. But tread carefully or he'll awake and flash and screech. A spine-chilling game for children over 7 years and adults too. A game of chance and skill. Pit your wits against the vampire. Get him before he gets you. Now, that sounds really awesome. And one of the most awesome features of this board game is the board itself. This circular board has so much awesome artwork on it. And as you can see, all the little dots on it are actually places where you stab your daggers. Now, a summary that I found online says that players race to move one of their daggers to the center of the board and slay the vampire. Each player begins the game with 5 daggers and places one of them on the starting footprint at the beginning of the game. Each turn, every player gets 6 movement points to share between his dagger, and it gives an example, i.e., move 1 dagger forward 6 footprints, or 2 daggers 3 footprints each, or any combination up to a total of 6. You can leapfrog your own daggers, but may never have 2 daggers on the same footprint. And at the end of each move, the dagger is stabbed into the board. When a dagger is placed in one of the randomly selected footprints, the vampire will let out a blood-curdling scream, causing that dagger to be removed from the game. Players have to remember which footprints will wake the vampire and avoid them for the rest of the game. The first player to reach the center of the board and stab his dagger into the heart of the vampire wins. I mean, on top of the board itself looking so awesome, and the fact that you have a handful of daggers you get to stab into it, this sounds like a really fun game. And the fact that the vampire screams and apparently lights up a little bit, I mean, that just sounds like a lot of fun. And I'm very surprised that I could not find anything really on it online. I mean, there's definitely none for sale on the secondary market, and it definitely seems to be a forgotten board game from the 70s. Which seems kind of sad because, I mean, this seems like something you could bust out now and have a lot of fun playing it. Because it looks like it has a little bit of strategy and just a lot of dumb luck and fun. Anyway, I would love to play this game, but let's get to our next board game. Our second board game is a UK release, and it was produced by Strawberry Fair in 1974. This is Scream In. Now, the manufacturer's blurb of this game says, "We're only here for the fear. A fast game full of fun for 2, 3, or 4 players. The object of the game is to get your players out of Scream In. Beware, there are ghosts under the beds and floorboards to boo you at every turn. Place your ghosts in the board and spin the wheel to move them around. Try to get your marker out of the inn without disturbing any ghosts." Now, this game seems to have a little bit of a backstory, which is super interesting. Like I said, it's a UK release, and there could be ties to a UK comic strip called Scream In, but there's no direct correlation between the two other than the name and the fact that both of them feature ghosts. Now, the comic strip was in the British weekly Shiver and Shake during 1973 and 74. Now, anyway, this game just vaguely resembles the comic strip. None of the characters make an appearance because the characters in this game are just generic. Now, the game was aimed at players aged 6 years to adult and could be played 2 to 4 players. Each player starts with 5 figures and 4 ghosts, and you hide your ghosts under the rotating board, placing them under beds, floorboards, just concealing them from the other players. If you land on a bed or a floorboard, you have to look underneath, and if you encounter a ghost, you lose that playing piece and have to start again. Now, the aim of the game is to escape the Scream In without finding any ghosts. Now, the game has a 3D element to it with the cardboard cutouts and things, and that kind of makes it very hard to find a complete copy. So the prices that I found do seem a little crazy, but it makes sense if it's hard to find a complete one out there. But this definitely seems like a game that would be pretty fun, and that 3D element rotating game board just seemed like a really cool dynamic. I definitely would like to try playing it one day, but for those prices, I don't see that happening. Our third board game is one that is probably more well known than some of the others on this list. This is Voice of the Mummy, released by Milton Bradley in 1971. Now, what was so revolutionary about this game was that it actually came with a small plastic record. Inside the mummy's sarcophagus was this small record and playing device. And the goal of the game is to collect jewels while following the commands of the mummy. Now, the game board is divided into steps, with the mummy being at the very top. And players navigate this kind of upwards labyrinth by rolling dice and trying to land on the precious jewels locations on the game board. Now, you try to go for the great jewel at the foot of the mummy's sarcophagus at the top. And once you get that, you try to escape. Now, players at that point are in a race to get back to their individual temples, while still following the comments of the mummy. Anyway, the winner of the game is the one that has the most jewels, and those are only calculated after everybody reaches their individual temple, which are located on the 4 corners of the game board. Now, this is definitely a very expensive board game to find complete, and I can understand why. It has so many little pieces and working parts. I mean, the record itself goes for a lot of money by itself. So the fact that it's over $500 for a complete in-package game, it's pretty understandable. Now, I tried to explain this the best that I could, but let's take a look at the original commercial. So, here we go.
Now, from Milton Bradley, a weird game, Voice of the Mummy. Press the button. From within the tomb, the mummy speaks.
Look out! The unholy snakes of Aemon reach from below. Move up one level.
Each player tries to capture the sacred scarab. He who collects the most jewels wins. The Voice of the Mummy, the electric sound game from Milton Bradley.
Our fourth game comes from Invicta Games and was released in 1970. This is Execution. Now, this is a game of dexterity. Now, the axe swishes back and forth, and the players have to grab little bones from out of the coffin. The swinging pendulum of the axes drive a mechanism that actually drops the coffin lid, which signals the end of the game once it's closed. Now, you get points by how many bones you can collect, and you actually suffer penalties if you get hit by the axe. So, score the most points before the lid closes without getting chopped up by the executioner, and you win. Now, the crazy thing is, I could not find any of the original 1970s versions of this game out there on the open markets of the internet. But there is a new version that is, exactly the same, that is being sold right now for the low price of $22. Now, if you are super interested in this game, $22 is not a lot of money to spend. And it just seems like a lot of fun. I'm sure this game takes on a whole nother level of difficulty if you bust this out during a party. Get a little drinking involved and see how that dexterity works out when grabbing them bones. But anyway, let's get to our fifth and final board game. Our fifth and final Forgotten 70s monster board game comes from Waddington in the year 1977. This is simply titled The Game of Dracula. Now, this is for 2 to 4 players, and as the box states, it's for players ages 7 and upwards. I kind of like the wording of that. Just doesn't make you feel as weird if you're an adult playing it. It says upwards. Anyway, the game's summary that I found online, let me read it. The purpose of this game: sheltering for the night in this ruined castle, you are horrified to find that it is in fact Castle Dracula, the lair of the bloodthirsty Count Dracula and his pet vampires. The sun is about to set and Dracula is beginning his nightly prowls. Your only hope is to escape from the castle as quickly as possible through one of the doorways marked Home. To do this, you will move along the yellow stone pathway by throwing the dice. At all times, you will try to keep out of the way of the diabolical Count Dracula and his marauding vampires. If at any time you find yourself in the same room as Dracula, then you will be bitten by Dracula with serious results. Now, the first player to escape from the castle is the winner. This is a fiendish game of suspense and fun. Players plot their escape from Dracula's castle and move stealthily towards the exit. But beware, Dracula prowls the castle looking for a victim. The first player to suffer Dracula's bite becomes the Green Vampire, which you get to wear this awesome mask if you become the Green Vampire. I would lose just to wear this mask. But anyway, you don the Green Vampire face mask. This vampire then flits from room to room, seeking another victim to take over his role. I wouldn't. I'd want to continue to be the Green Vampire. Any further victims of Dracula go back to the vault and must attempt their escape from square one again. The Dracula and Green Vampire pieces actually engulf the player's playing pieces when they are bitten. So this is a simple chase game, and the mask is a really neat dynamic that they added to it. And I would assume finding one of these masks still intact, because it looks to be pretty thin cardboard, is probably very hard to do, which kind of gives us this higher price point. Nothing like the $500 that we saw in that Mummy game, mind you, but $80 is still steep for a used board game. Now, you can find some, little bit tattered versions of the game for as low as $10. And if you're just wanting to play the game, that's a good place to start. Now, if you're a collector of awesome horror memorabilia of the 70s, then $80 seems like a fair price. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Now, let's wrap this up. Anyway, folks, that was 5 forgotten monster board games from the 1970s. And yeah, a lot of these seem really fun, and I would actually enjoy playing them with my family. I mean, anything that is, a classic board game with a monster spin, I'm all for. I mean, anything with monsters, I'm all about. But some of these seem to have really interesting and dynamic play features that we haven't seen anywhere else, or haven't seen, in your typical board game perusements. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I've been kind of taking breaks here and there recently to do some really down and dirty research, and I'm actually redoing my 90s encyclopedia, catalog, whatever you want to call it. So my time's kind of been split with the fun, quiet researching and the fun talking part of doing these videos. So I'm kind of balancing those out, but in the near future, we'll be back to a pretty normal schedule of at least 1, if not 2 videos a week. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you got something to say, please leave a comment. I love reading them, and I love getting back to everyone. And if you're new around here and you enjoyed this or any of the episodes that YouTube is recommending down here, please hit subscribe. And if you hit that little bell icon, you will be notified whenever there's new episodes. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Keep being rad and stay dorky.